Welcome everyone to another CTC software webinar. My name is Chris Berger, Director of Technical Services here at CTC, and today we are going to conduct part 2 of our Family Standards and Family Checker webinar when it comes to visualizing the data and reports and being able to do something with the information that you receive after running your checks. Before I get too far going, I want to encourage everyone to ask questions using the questions panel within the GoTo interface. I'll be monitoring those throughout the presentation, and we'll make sure to answer those in line as it makes sense. For those of you watching the recording on our YouTube channel, if you've got questions or comments, please use the comment section. We monitor those as well, and we'll respond to you accordingly. With that said, let's just get into it. Now, as a recap kind of from part 1, as you guys know, we've been working for a few years now trying to get everyone access to their data. And in our case now, from over the years, there's a lot of data that we have access to, but really it all kind of began with our Family Checker application from the BIM Manager Suite. And this was many years ago, at least 10 years ago, where we came out with this application where you could scan your content and get a report. That was step 1. And then we've got other model compare, model dashboard, project activity logger, family standards, the list goes on, and all the way down to getting information about your licensing and usage. So part 2 today piggybacks off part 1, where we talked Family Standards and Family Checker in part 1 and how to at least visualize that data. Today's webinar is going to recap all of that and then show you how to get more of a seamless approach to your data so that you can get a historical overview of everything, have direct access without constantly having to start from scratch, if you will. Now, so for today, we're going to do a quick recap. I'm going to show you what we did in case you missed it. And then I'm going to introduce you to the CTC Reporting API, which is how we're going to accomplish getting access to our data in a different way, in many cases a better way. Where to get the downloads, where to get your data, how to put it all together, and then ultimately showing you the reports that we end up with at the end of the day. So first, in a recap, we talked about Family Standards from the CTC Nexus Suite, and we talked about Family Checker from the CTC BIM Manager Suite, and we configured rules in both, and we ran some checks in both applications. Family Checker gives you a report right up front in your face, and you can save an Excel file, turn around and begin working with it. Family Standards sends you an email with your report when it's all said and done. Then you can link it into a Power BI file and start building a report. So we talked about how to build those reports in Power BI, just so you can get a feel for how that all puts together. So below it down here now, first one was Family Checker, then we did Family Standards, rule sets. Here's the reports that you received in an Excel format, and ultimately this is where we ended up at the end of part 1. And just real quick, again, I know this is a recap, so I'm not spending a ton of time on it, but I just wanted to make sure you guys, for those of you missed, know where to go. So in the CTC portal is where you'll find a standards tab, and this is where you can manage the Family Standards set of rules. And this directly checks libraries inside of your Nexus CMS. So all of the rules found here, and again, on your Common Standards tab, all of this links back and runs a check on any selected library of your choosing. And I recommend, if you've been using a CMS for a while now, you've got your libraries established, and they've likely never had a check run on them. So you kind of have two options. One, you can check the entire library all at one shot, just to get that kind of first sampling going, or you can build a new library, like I've done here, called to be reviewed by family standards, and you can start adding content to this library so that you can run a check and maybe run those checks in smaller batches, just so it doesn't seem so overwhelming. Maybe you don't care and you just want to get everything and see where you're at. That's okay too. Either way, I would think as a moving forward down the line, it might not be a bad idea to just go ahead and throw everything into a library like this on an as-needed basis, so that you're running smaller checks and you get access to that data even faster and those reports even quicker. The other option, and then last but not, I should say, once you've, oops, I didn't mean to edit that. Once you check the box, you'll get a green check mark that appears. This will run the standards check on that library or libraries if you've got multiples checked. But it's that simple. Once you've configured the rules, you kind of technically don't have to look at it again if you don't want to. Then on the Revit side, we were in Family Checker, which again is part of the BIM Manager Suite. We configured our rules. It's the same set of rules that you had before, just a different interface. Everything is found under options here, so you can pick your groups, your rules, categories, rule sets, the desired parameter file, and run your check on any content that you like, one family or 6 dozen families. It's up to you. And you'll get the report right here in the page and be able to save that out to Excel. So that's kind of how we handled that. We get into Excel, we get our little report that has all the data and the results for each individual category being checked. If there's some blank ones in here, that's okay. That just means that particular family doesn't apply to that check. So you don't have to worry about it at all. We then took this data into a Power BI file and built out a couple of pages of charts here. And we reviewed a little bit how that works. And this is a list of what the Family Checker report looks like, or the Family Checker data looks like inside of your Power BI file once you've kind of linked all your data together. I took everyone step by step through all that process in part 1. So if you're interested in that, go back and watch the Family Standards and Family Checker part 1 webinar, which was a couple weeks ago now. All right, so instead of this, so there's actually a quicker way to get access to this. So you don't have to do the download and you don't have to use BIM Manager Suite. Now, if you don't have if you're not using the Nexus CMS, then utilizing Family Checker is great, and you have access to everything that you need to use. But if you are using the Nexus Suite for the CMS, you can take advantage of Family Standards on your content in the cloud and link up to our CTC's API, Reporting API. So there's a bunch of different ways you have access to your content or to your data. The first way is what's directly available on our website that you on the dashboards, right? That's option A. It is what it is. You see what you see. It's not editable. There's some light filtering available there, but it's a small sampling effectively. You can't customize it. Option B, which is what I'm showing today, is using a series of templates that we've provided to gain access to your company's data, and which is what we're going to talk about today. There's a couple other options, and if you've been watching Sean's webinars recently about the Reporting API, you may already know you can connect via Postman. You can link it up using a SQL server or a PostgreSQL server, and gain access to your data that way. That's well and above my head, so we're not talking about that. I just wanted to point it out in case it piques your interest. Today, I'm going to show you how you can just utilize what we've already provided here on our website. And so we're going to go through the API downloads and get the data package for the Excel and Power BI templates. And this is what we're going to walk through. We're going to set it up. So we're going to download it. There is an API key that is required for you to have access to your data outside of our dashboards. So if you are intrigued by this and you want to try it out, whether it's for family standards or just to check out your other data, let us know. Send us an email to licenserequest@ctcsoftware.com requesting your reports API key, and we will get one sent over to you if you don't already have one. Some of you have already asked. Then we're going to set the Excel file up, which is part of the downloads, show you how that looks and kind of what it means and what you're getting and where to find the family standards data set. And then we're going to set up the Power BI file to reference the information and how updates work, okay? Now, so again, this is going to be a very, we're just trying to tie into everything that we've already done. So on my dashboard, I'm logged into my CTC portal as myself. We have an API downloads now. So this used to be just a standard downloads tab where you would get 3 Excel files and 1 Power BI file. We've changed that up a little bit. Those 3 Excel files were tied to your users and groups. They were tied to your PAL data, and they are tied to your CMS usage data. And you still had to download those files on a relatively regular basis to make sure that your data was always current, because it was still only giving you a sample size, and it was very much a manual effort. Today, if you do it this way and you request your reports API key, that's a one-time thing. The only thing you need to do is click a refresh button, which I'll show you. Actually, 2 refresh buttons potentially. So I've already downloaded my content, and in the download set that you get, it's going to look like this. You're going to get a zip file called CTC Reporting v3.x default. And once unzipped, you'll have an Excel file, a Power BI file, and some instructions on how to do this. I'm going to walk you through it today so you don't have to read the instructions if you watch the video, and there's other videos that explain how to do this as well. So I've already got my Excel file open. Oh, not that Excel file. My apologies. This Excel file. Now, this is what it's going to look like when you open it up for the first time. And it's going to have a list of all the tabs across down here at the bottom. So we're going to have information for our accounts, users, and role information. We have tabs for your licensing and usage statistics there. We also have some tabs for your CMS content and searches and how things are working on your within your CMS environment. We also, if you keep on clicking, we start getting into the PAL information, the project activity logger data. And then we also have information in here on, oh, I scanned right over it, but our family standards checks are in here, and it's actually technically called CMS content file checks because family standards directly works within the CMS environment, right? There they are, CMS content file checks. So this is the important tab of data that we're looking for here. So right now, everything's empty. To get my data linked up, I need to go to my data tab inside of Excel, and we're going to open up queries and connections. And I actually forgot to open another file. So while that's opening, I'm going to talk. So over here, as it's loading, because it's taking its time, there it goes. You start to get a list of everything that's contained within this document. And you're going to see all the queries, which are effectively the tabs across down here at the bottom. And there are 46 tabs that you have access to. When you minimize this or collapse this group, you'll see the parameters. These parameters is the information that how we're bringing some of this data in. Some of these are set to true, some of these are set to false, Some of them have numbers in there. I'm going to tell you how that works. So the very first one in this list is the most important one. This is where you put your reports key in. So what you can do, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can double click it, you can hover and click edit. I usually just double click it because it will open the Power Query Editor, which allows me to edit not only that field, but then switch gears and update any other of these parameters that I need to. So here I've got my reports key pasted in. And now I can start to control some of the other information that I want to obtain or not obtain. Kind of depends on what you're working with. In this case, for this to work, I want to make sure that I have my CMS tables. And that's going to help me bring in anything that has CMS kind of in the title down here. So specifically the content file checks. And then there's additional information in the CMS content details, which we could also bring down. I don't need that for this, and I don't need searches. I don't need licensing. I don't need project activity. So there's certain things you can enable, disable, and you can also specify the duration, how much data, or how, over a course of time, how much information are you looking for? The default is 30 days. And we kind of have some presets in here. I always like to start off with 1 day just to make sure that any of the other adjustments I've made to this document, whether I'm trying to establish different relationships, I want certain other things loaded or not loaded, depending, as you get more familiar with it, you'll know more about what you need to do or not do for the task at hand. And then I hit close and load. So it's going to take my reports key and my search date offset and the fact that I want my CMS tables and prepare that. And then you have to hit refresh. And it's going to take a couple minutes to go ahead and scan up all that data. Now, I've already got a copy of that hanging out. So I'm just going to pop that open here real quick. In case Teams likes to slow me down a little bit, which happens. So I'm going to open this file up here. What dialog box is open? Anyway, maybe I won't be. Hold on. Let me get back to. Oh, that should work. Let's try that again. Anyway. Oh, it's probably because it's loading. It's not happy with me. That's okay. That's okay. At any rate, what'll happen is the data is going to load, and I'm going to get my report. Then, once that's done loading, you bring it into Power BI. And this is where we have the other template file for us to use. So if I go back into the downloads folder that I have here, this guy, we have a Power BI file that we can work with. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Actually, yeah, let's open it right now. And it's a template, so we've already kind of preset this up for you so that you don't have to take the time to stitch this all together yourself. And it's going to have everything in it that you're used to seeing in the spreadsheet. And honestly, a lot of the information that we've already had on the dashboard. Only difference here is that you have control over the tabs and the reports now. Now you get to customize what it is that you're actually seeing. And to connect this to your Excel file and the data that you've just synced up, it's just a matter of hitting this transform data dropdown, not the button, the dropdown, and selecting the edit parameters. And it gives you an Excel file path. Specify the proper file path, and you've got your information. And I don't have that in my Windows V, so give me 1 second to pull that back up. My apologies. Okay, and if you've renamed the file, make sure you pick the appropriate file, but really you can just copy paste it. I am going to do this because that's the one that I've already pre-synced. And there's some appending changes here, and now I can click apply. And what it's going to do is it's going to look to that Excel file, refresh my data. It's only looking for a couple days worth of data, maybe. You can always choose from that dropdown. When I showed you the Power Query window, I chose the 1 day. You can manually type that in if you'd like. So if you do want to try 7 days or 14 days or 36 days, go right ahead. You're not handcuffed to the presets that we've provided. It is flexible. Choose what you want to choose. So now that that's done, we can start checking out some of the other tabs here. And as we go along, the data will start to refresh. So for example, so down here, we've named the tabs slightly different to make it a little bit easier to see and track down. So it will say CMS family standards, family standards, family standards. And you can get an idea what the average rating of your content is. And there's a date slider up here, so you can go ahead and make adjustments to this to see content in a certain time frame. So as you can see now, this is everything that's been checked. This isn't just a few days worth of checks. This is every check that's been run. So if you wanted to check something based on a specific date range, that's why we have the sliders up here, right? So you can go back and go to a specific date and time. You could even build your own custom report that just, has its own field, and you pick the date of the report or the date that you scanned it, and that's going to be the checks that you see. And I clicked one too many times. So we give you a little sampling down here at the bottom to get you going and to get you introduced to how this works. So right now, you can set it up to whatever makes sense. And this is all, I believe, based off a particular user who hasn't used this. But it'll tell you how many families actually have rating, how many are unrated, and based off that report. In this case, that one's a more, again, tied to a particular user, not me, but someone, and probably Sean. And this one's the overall list. So now I've rated over 500 families. This one is broken, so we'll have to fix that field because I know I've got a couple hundred in there. But it gives you the average rating, which is great, and it tells you the family name and what the rating is. You get a nice little report that tells you what's the average health looking like here. Our content in our library, based off what's been scanned, is very much in the middle of the road, in between this 2 and 3. And if you remember, back on the Family Standards tab from last week, we have a setting in here to hide content that doesn't meet a specific value, right? So if your content rating is less than a particular number, turn it off. We don't want to show it. Chances are then that means that either something isn't working as it's supposed to, or it's going to make life harder for the end users to do their job than it needs to, or than it should. So, yeah. So that's everything I wanted to show you guys today. I keep going back to that, and I didn't mean to. That's everything I wanted to show you. The whole point of today was to show you how to get quicker access to your content or to your data, instead of having to manually build out the reports based on the data downloads or the file that you had saved. So if you're using the Nexus suite, you've already got access to this. And to be perfectly honest with you, if you're using the CTC portal at all for your licensing, to license your other tools, or maybe you're using Project Activity Logger or Ally or anything like that, you have access to this and you can get your data. So maybe you just need you want some CMS info, or you need some license info or user group info. That's all up here too. So just wanted to clarify and point some of that stuff out so you guys know there's better ways to gain access to this. All right, so that though wraps it up for today. I want to thank you all for joining me today and this week. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to talking to you guys every time. And we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar.